Henyard says she is endorsing a new board, but not announcing who they are just yet, instead promising to name them later this month. Henyard is under investigation by the FBI.
You're using public funds for something that taxpayer dollars should be.
To understand how Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor of Dalton, found herself at the center of a crisis, we need to rewind and trace the series of events that led to her dramatic fall from grace. Her tenure as mayor, marked by years of controversies, accusations, and divisive leadership, began as explosively as it ended. Henyard's rise to power was anything but conventional. After the unexpected death of the previous mayor, the town of Dalton found itself in an uncertain and rushed appointment process. In the chaos that followed, Henyard was quickly thrust into a position of authority, one that many believed she was unprepared for. Right from the start, her leadership style raised eyebrows. She swiftly dismissed long-standing employees, replacing them with loyalists and creating an atmosphere of absolute control. Her early days in office were filled with ambitious promises to revitalize Dalton, but things quickly began to unravel. Allegations of questionable financial management surfaced, fueled by rumors of extravagant spending and personal indulgences. Reports of Henyard splurging on Amazon shopping sprees, taking unnecessary luxury trips, and even using public funds for a personal police detail began circulating. These accusations were hard to ignore, especially in a town where many residents were struggling financially, while Henyard's lifestyle seemed increasingly disconnected from their reality. On top of this, her combined salary, reportedly exceeding that of Illinois' governor, raised even more eyebrows. As she embraced the title of super mayor, her behavior grew more grandiose, shifting her focus from addressing the town's pressing needs to maintaining her personal brand of leadership. Board meetings became battlegrounds, where her critics clashed openly with her policies, and her loyalists fiercely defended her. The community began to fracture, with Henyard's combative responses to her critics only making matters worse. Then came the allegations of corruption, which centered on claims of misused public funds and power abuses. Despite mounting calls for transparency, Henyard refused to address these issues head-on. She continued to avoid difficult questions, hold private meetings, and craft a narrative of herself as Dalton's embattled savior. But as the allegations gained traction, federal investigators began to quietly look into the swirling rumors, building a case against her. The situation became more dire with each new report, and her supporters began to waver. By this point, the legal troubles surrounding Henyard seemed inevitable. The public and local officials had grown increasingly skeptical of her innocence, and the whispers of federal involvement turned into reality. The more she doubled down on her secrecy, the clearer it became that her administration's actions might have crossed serious ethical and legal boundaries. The tipping point came when federal agents raided her office and home, marking the end of her reign. By the time news of her arrest broke, the town of Dalton was already reeling, its residents caught between shock, a sense of vindication, and the grim realization that repairing the damage left behind would be no easy task. Henyard's story, from her meteoric rise to her dramatic fall, is one of power, controversy, and the heavy consequences of putting personal gain over the collective good. It serves as a cautionary tale, not just for Dalton, but for communities everywhere.
With 6th embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard is mounting a re-election bid. Henyard made
Tiffany Henyard's arrest at her Dalton residence in the early hours of the morning sent shockwaves through the community, marking a dramatic and inevitable conclusion to the controversies that had plagued her tenure as both mayor and township supervisor. Witnesses described federal agents arriving in force at her property, with Henyard's lover, Kamal Woods, who has faced his own share of scandals, silently observing as she was taken into custody. While the official charges have not been disclosed, sources close to the investigation suggest they likely involve embezzlement, misappropriation of public funds, and obstruction of justice. These serious allegations are tied to a federal probe into Henyard's handling of finances in Dalton and Thornton Township. The arrest has ignited a firestorm of speculation and outrage, particularly in the political circles of the South suburbs. To understand the significance of this moment, it's essential to reflect on the turbulent and controversial leadership Henyard exhibited since she assumed office in 2021. Her time in power was marked by grand proclamations, larger-than-life ambitions, and an obsession with self-promotion. From the outset, Henyard sought to position herself as not just a public servant, but a figure of extraordinary importance. Adopting the title of super mayor, she relentlessly showcased her image across Dalton and Thornton Township. Her face appeared on billboards, event flyers, promotional materials, and even on welcome signs, creating the illusion that she was the town's singular symbol of leadership and progress. While she described this visibility as a means of staying connected with her constituents, critics saw it as excessive self-aggrandizement, prioritizing her personal brand over effective governance. Despite dismissing these accusations, claiming that she was a leader who deeply cared for her community, skepticism only grew as more details of her controversial actions came to light. Henyard's time in office was riddled with allegations of improper behavior and decisions that frequently made headlines for all the wrong reasons. One of the central issues was her financial management, which came under heavy scrutiny. Reports suggested she used taxpayer money for personal indulgences, from extravagant Amazon shopping sprees to luxury trips, and even a private police detail. These revelations led to mounting questions about her fiscal responsibility and commitment to the town's well-being. Critics argued that she had exploited her position for personal gain, an allegation that gained further traction as federal investigators began looking into her administration's financial dealings. Despite these growing controversies, Henyard's bold public persona continued to garner both admiration and criticism. Her supporters praised her charisma and believed her proactive, visible leadership made her relatable to the people she served. However, detractors pointed to her tendency to monopolize public attention and resources, arguing that it reflected deeper issues with her leadership priorities. While her self-styled role as super mayor resonated with some, it alienated others who felt it distracted from the actual responsibilities of public service. As investigations into Henyard's activities intensified, the drama surrounding her administration escalated. A mix of bold claims, divisive policies, and financial controversy created an atmosphere of mistrust, with many describing her time in office as chaotic and self-serving. Allegations that she misused public funds to enhance her image, coupled with reports of lavish spending, drew the attention of watchdog groups and public officials. Calls for greater transparency grew louder, but instead of addressing these concerns, Henyard doubled down on her position. She often deflected criticism or downplayed the seriousness of the allegations against her. By the time federal officials moved in to arrest her, Henyard's reputation had become a deeply divisive issue. Some continued to rally behind her, defending her leadership, while others felt vindicated by what they saw as long overdue accountability. The presence of Kamal Woods at the scene of her arrest added yet another layer of intrigue, further tying Henyard to a web of personal and professional controversy. For a leader whose tenure was as much about spectacle as substance, her arrest served as a stark reminder of the dangers of governance that prioritizes image over integrity. The consequences of her actions are far-reaching, not only for her, but for the community she once led.
Not until 2025, yet Tiffany Henyard has officially decided she wants to stay as mayor despite the cloud of controversy.
Beneath the flashy image and her self-proclaimed title of super mayor, a troubling pattern of alleged financial mismanagement began to emerge early in Tiffany Henyard's tenure, casting a long shadow over her ambitious promises and polarizing leadership. Rumors of questionable spending surfaced almost immediately, hinting at extravagant use of taxpayer funds for personal indulgences, such as luxury furnishings and expensive vacations, expenditures that many residents felt were completely disconnected from the town's real needs. One of the most shocking examples of alleged misuse of funds was the infamous skating rink project, a $2 million initiative that critics argued was built without proper approval. The rink quickly became a symbol of Henyard's controversial decision-making, with locals alleging that it was often used solely for her personal events, effectively turning a publicly funded project into a venue for self-promotion. While her supporters defended the project as a bold step toward improving recreation in the town, detractors saw it as another vanity project funded by taxpayer dollars. But the skating rink was just one example of a broader narrative of financial discrepancies. Perhaps the most striking revelation was Henyard's reported $43,000 shopping spree on Amazon, charged to the village accounts in a single day. This audacious spending spree immediately became a lightning rod for criticism, underscoring her apparent disregard for transparency and fiscal responsibility. To many, this was an outright abuse of public funds, further deepening concerns about how Henyard was managing taxpayer money. While her supporters tried to justify such expenditures as necessary investments for the betterment of the town, a growing segment of the community began to see her leadership as an embodiment of unchecked excess and self-indulgence. The contrast between her promises of fiscal responsibility and the mounting allegations of lavish spending fueled public outrage, as residents felt increasingly betrayed by a leader who had once promised to prioritize their well-being. As the revelations of questionable spending continued to surface, the divide in public opinion deepened. The accusations of mismanagement painted a stark picture of a leader more focused on her image than on the community she was meant to serve. This pattern of extravagant spending, coupled with rising allegations of corruption, set the stage for a full-blown scandal. As investigations into Henyard's financial dealings intensified, the atmosphere of mistrust only grew, leaving a community grappling with the fallout of a leader who had seemingly put personal gain above the public good.
Business in Thornton Township, which hit a roadblock tonight, not because of the weather, not because of logistics, but because two trustees...
Tiffany Henyard's leadership as mayor of Dolton became defined not just by allegations of financial mismanagement, but also by a leadership style that alienated allies and intensified political conflict. From the very beginning, her time in office was marked by frequent, public clashes with the Dolton Village Board of Trustees, with these heated exchanges often dominating the narrative of her administration. Meetings, which were meant to foster collaboration and decision-making, quickly became battlegrounds, and it was clear that Henyard was embroiled in a struggle not just with her critics, but with the entire political establishment. Her confrontational approach was not confined to the boardroom. The tension spilled over into social media, particularly Facebook Live broadcasts, where Henyard would frequently address her detractors directly. In these videos, she regularly named specific critics, accusing them of jealousy or personal grievances. On one occasion, she referred to these individuals as enemies of progress, vowing to expose them for undermining her leadership. Her combative rhetoric attracted both admirers and detractors, with some praising her as a champion for the people, while others began to question her judgment and leadership abilities. The impact of Henyard's approach was felt across the community. Many residents and even former supporters feared retaliation for speaking out against her administration. There were reports of public shaming, publicized lawsuits, and rumors of township funds being strategically used to silence or punish critics. Local business owners shared stories of feeling targeted, with one claiming that his business was shut down after he declined to contribute to Henyard's campaign. Another reported being harassed by the police department, which some critics alleged Henyard used as her personal enforcement arm to intimidate those who disagreed with her. One of the most dramatic moments of her tenure occurred during a particularly tense board meeting, which was adjourned early because two key trustees, Carmen Carlisle and Chris Gonzalez, were absent. The absence of enough board members to make official decisions fueled further accusations that Henyard was alienating important allies. Even those who had once supported her began to turn against her, accusing her of consolidating power at the expense of transparency, cooperation, and effective governance. Carlisle, once a close ally, became one of Henyard's most vocal critics. She publicly accused the mayor of disregarding established protocols and bypassing important processes in order to push her own agenda. Carlisle claimed that Henyard's leadership was driven more by personal ambition than by a genuine desire to serve the community. These internal divisions within the administration created an atmosphere of distrust and disorder, which only deepened the divide between Henyard and the Board of Trustees. The contentious relationship between Henyard and the trustees was further exemplified by her controversial nomination of Ronald Burge as Dalton's police chief. The nomination caused a public uproar, with critics accusing her of bypassing board approval for key decisions, including the hiring of essential personnel. Though a judge allowed Burge to serve in an interim capacity, trustees continued to voice concerns, claiming that his appointment was illegal and that Burge was unqualified for the position. They pointed out that his state accreditation had expired, further fueling accusations of Henyard's disrespect for established processes. Carlisle's departure from Henyard's inner circle was particularly shocking given their history. Carlisle had once been one of Henyard's closest allies and an important figure in her administration. Her decision to speak out against Henyard added credibility to the mounting allegations of mismanagement and misconduct within the mayor's office. Carlisle even went so far as to compare the mayor's leadership style to running the township like a private police force. This dramatic shift in Carlisle's stance, from a trusted confidant to a vocal whistleblower, sent a clear message that the internal divisions within Henyard's administration were becoming irreparable. Perhaps the most serious allegations, however, concerned Henyard's handling of the township's finances. Trustees began to claim that she was withholding crucial financial information from them, making it impossible for the board to make informed decisions. Some accused Henyard of fabricating checks to circumvent board approval, effectively bypassing any oversight of the township's spending. Once thought to have a healthy financial surplus, Dolton was revealed to be losing millions of dollars. This revelation came to light after former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was appointed to investigate the township's finances. Lightfoot's preliminary report painted a bleak picture of financial mismanagement, accusing Henyard's administration of a complete lack of control over taxpayer money. Despite the severity of these findings, Henyard dismissed the report as a politically motivated attack. She accused her detractors of harboring envy and hatred, rejecting the notion that her administration was responsible for the financial turmoil. This reaction only deepened the rift between her and her critics, particularly the trustees, who began to describe Henyard's financial practices as a shell game, an elaborate deception designed to mask the truth. As the investigations into her financial dealings grew more serious, it became increasingly clear that her tenure was marked by a pattern of secrecy, poor financial oversight, and an ongoing disregard for transparency. By this point, Henyard's political position had become increasingly untenable. Once a rising star with bold promises to revitalize Dolton, her administration had devolved into a chaotic and combative affair marked by deep internal divisions, widespread allegations of financial mismanagement, and a complete breakdown in trust between her and the board. What had once been a promising leadership was now seen by many as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the erosion of public trust. Despite the mounting criticisms, Henyard continued to maintain a defensive stance, often turning the blame on others rather than acknowledging her administration's failures. Her refusal to compromise or engage in constructive dialogue with the board further fueled the perception that she was more interested in consolidating her power than in governing effectively. For a leader who had once promised to bring unity and progress to Dolton, Henyard's leadership was now seen as a symbol of political dysfunction and mismanagement. The final chapters of her tenure would play out under the weight of federal investigations, and as more details of her financial and political missteps emerged, it became clear that her time in office would be remembered not for the promises she made, but for the scandals that ultimately led to her downfall.
Pay me what you owe me.
In a highly controversial Facebook Live video, Tiffany Henyard launched a fierce attack on her critics, accusing them of bigotry and vowing to sue everyone who had slandered her name. "I'll come get them all," she declared in the nearly hour-long broadcast, as she aggressively defended her character and reputation. The video showcased her combative nature, with Henyard fiercely claiming that there was a plot to destroy her. However, while she was focused on defending herself on social media, federal investigators were quietly building their case against her. Reports revealed that the FBI had initiated an investigation early in the year, speaking with witnesses and examining financial documents related to both Thornton Township and Dolton, as well as Henyard's political committee and charity. Investigators were particularly focused on allegations of money laundering and embezzlement of public funds. Henyard's arrest earlier this year marked a dramatic turning point in the community. As news spread, many speculated that one of her associates may have agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for leniency, further heightening the intrigue surrounding the case. The arrest sparked strong reactions. Some of Henyard's supporters, particularly those who had viewed her as a strong leader, were quick to suggest that the FBI was targeting her because she was a young black woman in a position of power. They've been trying to tear her down for years, one supporter claimed, describing the arrest as part of a larger effort to bring down a successful black leader. However, many of Henyard's detractors saw the arrest as long overdue, with one longtime Dolton resident commenting, "She's been running this town like her own personal kingdom. It's time she was held responsible." The arrest has raised important questions about the future of Thornton Township and Dolton. With the mayor now facing serious federal charges, the political landscape in the south suburbs is set to change dramatically. Some residents and trustees are concerned about the long-term impact on the community's reputation, fearing that Henyard's actions could tarnish Dolton and Thornton Township for years to come. Others are calling for new leadership, with one trustee stating, "We must restore integrity and trust to our local government." As the legal process unfolds, many are left wondering about the ultimate outcome of Henyard's career. Will her arrest mark the end of her controversial tenure, or will she fight the charges and attempt to mount a political comeback? Her rise to power was marked by ambition and self-promotion, but her fall from grace has been equally dramatic, highlighting the consequences of unchecked power and the erosion of public trust. Henyard's story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of prioritizing personal gain over the public good. Her tenure in office has been marked by allegations of financial mismanagement, a combative leadership style, and a disregard for transparency. Whether or not her arrest was justified, the case raises important questions about accountability and the responsibility of public officials to act in the best interests of the communities they serve. The future of Thornton Township and Dolton is uncertain, and residents are left to grapple with the fallout from Henyard's time in office. Her arrest has forced the community to confront the challenges of governance, leadership, and integrity. As the legal battle continues, the question remains, will Henyard's political career come to an end, or will she manage to stage a comeback? The outcome of her case will likely have significant implications for the political climate in the south suburbs, and the community will be watching closely. For future updates on this developing story, be sure to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay informed and involved as this complex and drawn-out judicial struggle unfolds.